Hello, Buttercup. Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is The Last Prince of Ireland by Morgan Llywelyn, and this was the final book that I read for March 2024's Irish Readathon. There was a lot of historical fiction, also a little bit of a historical fantasy, and this is just straight up historical fiction, no magic involved whatsoever. And I'm going to read the summary on the back because I want to get the history correct, and my brain's a little muddled after so many historical Irish books that I might or might not mix things up. I don't want to do that because this is about the last Prince of Ireland, not the other books that I read by Morgan. So, the most tragic turning point in Irish history, 1601. The history of Ireland is studded with tragedies, but none more decisive than the Battle of Kinsale. There, the Gaelic nobility, who held sway over Ireland for 2,000 years, were finally and resolutely crushed by the English invaders. There would follow 400 years of English domination. The last prince is Donald Cam O'Sullivan, still determined after the battle not to surrender his homeland. He flees with his clan toward an inland stronghold as the Gaelic nation is ripped apart not only by war but by the seeds of betrayal planted by the English, whose powerful bribes turn brother against brother. The awesome saga of Donald Cam and his clan's winter journey is a powerful vision of honor and betrayal, pride and desperation. And so it is was it 2 week? I'm not great at the math. It is about 15 days march from Kinsale all the way to this stronghold that supports Donald Cam O'Sullivan and his clan. Now, what starts off as 1,000 people ends in under 300. By, I would say, not really the middle. Let's go with 70% of the book. Morgan states there's only 300 people left and there's only 4 women left. That shows how bad that trick was. And it's during peak winter time. So they start off, like I said, with 1,000 members that are very loyal to him, at least in the beginning, and it dwindles down. We're not told by the very end of this book how many are left of that 300, and there's only 4 women, and all the others are like older men or warriors. But based on the subsequent pages after that 70% mark, it's probably under 200 or about 200, because there are, I wouldn't even say deserters, though some maybe might be angry that I chose not to say deserters, but people that left because they have seen people freezing to death, people murdered, people starving to death, people drowning. At a certain point, I was like, I would have left a while ago, okay? This march is not good. And I actually gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. And this is actually, weirdly, a testament to Morgan's writing. I don't like Donald Cam O'Sullivan in this novel. Do I know what he was thinking, what his overall clan was thinking, what his family members and friends, blah, blah, what they were thinking in real time? No, I do not. But I read some other articles about him, and I'm not like a huge fan. I'm sorry. First off, as clan leader, as the last prince of Ireland, you should not have let those 1,000 people go with you almost nearly across Ireland during the winter, the dead of winter. You lost so many innocent people. I have a huge problem with that. I really do. I was reading this book and I'm like, I don't like you, okay? I really don't like him. And there were just some snippets of him being very prideful, of him being snobby, and I'm not a huge fan of monarchies in general, and that includes Irish monarchies. I don't particularly like that whole concept of you're better than everyone because of your supposed bloodline. Not a fan. But that was shown. I love Ireland. I love the history. What happened with the English taking over Ireland and everything that happened is horrible and it's devastating. But that doesn't mean that I support Irish monarchy, because I don't like any other monarchy, so that would be hypocritical of me to say, yeah, I'm totally down for the Irish monarchy, and people like Donald Cam O'Sullivan, I'm not. That is actually kind of hard to say, but reading up with the articles that I found on this situation and on Donald Cam O'Sullivan and reading this book and it being very historically accurate. There's a bibliography in the back that's very extensive, and she also walked the whole trek from where Donald Cam O'Sullivan and his clan members started all the way to the end, and she walked it with a friend of hers, and I read that in the author's note that also includes a lot of historical context, and I was like, yeah, I appreciate you, Maureen. I love the dedication to the history, but I personally did not like Donald Cam O'Sullivan as a character, and probably not as an actual person with his elitism involved, because in the beginning he was all for the English lifestyle until something happened, because he was all gung-ho, and then it was just a really fast, to me, switch. So there was something going on with the real Donald Cam O'Sullivan that's a little confusing to me personally. And I thought it was really interesting that he and many of his clan members that are blood related to him go to Spain, and they're treated as Irish royalty, and they're nobles, and they get all these fancy things and these fancy titles and all that stuff. And then it was like 16 to 18 years after this failure of the battle that he lost, and then the trek where hundreds of his people were killed in various ways, or they deserted, and then also like tried to do even more rebellions, but people were like, no, sorry, we're not following you after everything that happened. So then he goes to Spain, and yeah, 16, 18 years later, he's assassinated. And I just find that to be fascinating compared to, this is like a little earlier, but Grace O'Malley, Irish pirate queen, I think she handled the British and Elizabeth I very well. And for quite some time when she was younger, she was holding off the English, but in her own way, not necessarily through outright violence and saying that all British should die. Like, yeah, you know, that doesn't usually go well. She maneuvered around the British and the English, and specifically Elizabeth I. And I also think that Elizabeth I gave her props because she was a queen or a chieftain in her own right. She owned property. She ran these ships, and then kind of like subtly worked for Elizabeth I in certain ways with piracy. There are snippets in The Last Prince of Ireland where there is actually mention of Grace O'Malley, like she's really old at this point, so she's not doing the piracy stuff, but she's still in charge and she still has a lot of power. And it's mentioned that she did a fantastic job kind of handling the British and Elizabeth I, but too late now after the battle and the trek and just other things going on throughout Ireland, not just in the area where the O'Malley land and the clan are, that you can't really kind of go back and try and do what Grace O'Malley was doing, which is unfortunate. So I was upset with Donald Cam O'Sullivan and how he treated his loyal clan followers. Now, of course, they're gonna follow him no matter what, and they don't, mind if they die protecting him. Okay, that's there. But I am not a huge fan of monarchies because it's really tied into religion with Christianity, that God appointed you to be this prince or king or queen, whatever. And so it's, in a way, in 1601, did they have a choice in the beginning? I don't know. I don't think so. That's upsetting to me. Those children that starved to death, those elders that froze to death, those women that drowned in the Shannon. Did they really want to be there? It's very sad to me, this whole situation, this whole book. So I couldn't give it 5 stars. I just was so annoyed of Donald Cam O'Sullivan's choices, and I know some people say you can't compare different leaders, whatever. I'm gonna compare him with Grace O'Malley, and she's a better leader, and she handled the English way better than Donald Cam O'Sullivan. And it's not like they're hundreds of years before or after either. No, she's actually still alive in 1601. She's like in her 70s, but she's still alive, and she still has hold of the O'Malley clan and all of that. So she's older than Donald, but it's in the same age of life. And I admire Grace O'Malley way more than I do Donald Cam O'Sullivan. From my knowledge, there were other better princes and kings of his line, and it kind of sort of ended with him and his not so great choices, which is unfortunate. We could have gone forward doing way better, hopefully. Can't always, figure out, because history is what it is, but let's say hypothetically, he could have done better and helped change Ireland for the better, but that did not happen, and it's unfortunate. Can't, really stew on it all that much, or else I'll just get annoyed again. But the writing was great, and I do recommend this book. It's not going to be a happy-go-lucky book, but if you want to learn about the whole truth, nothing but the truth about Ireland, then this is a really solid historical fiction novel. And I do appreciate Morgan being upfront and honest with the pitfalls of monarchies. Doesn't matter if it's Irish monarchy or any type of monarchy. It was subtle, but it's there. It is absolutely there. Not just from the things that he says about himself and his title and, his clan or whatever, but just the people that followed him because he's the last prince, and that means he's somehow a savior and God's given chosen one for the, no, we can see in history that just because you were born into a monarchy does not mean that you are good at that job. And I have to end with that because it really upsets me. The summary on the back of the book says the Irish history is not great, not usually very happy or positive. Usually it's heartbreaking. You look back in the past and you're like, why did you fill in the blank do that? But yeah, you can't change what people decided to do, and a lot of the time it was greedy and it was about power and money, and it's just thank you so much. But that is also not just an Irish history problem, it's a human problem, so I will try to remind myself of that and just, you know, go along with the ride of learning more and more about history and the fantastical people that made the history that we know and love and sometimes not love today. Thank you so much for watching my review on The Last Prince of Ireland by Morgan Llewellyn. I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.